Welcome back to Malicious Compliance, the podcast where we celebrate people who followed the rules so perfectly they broke the system. I'm your host, Jennifer Hayes, and today's story is an absolute masterpiece of revenge served in the most vibrant shade of purple imaginable. My guest today is Marcus Webb, a patent attorney from Austin, Texas, who took on his HOA and won in the most spectacular, colorful way possible. Marcus, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer. I have to say, telling this story never gets old.
So, Marcus, I've seen the photos of your house, and I have to say, it is aggressively purple. Like, you can see it from the International Space Station purple.
Pantone 2665C, to be exact. I like to call it Royal Revenge Purple. But yes, it's a statement.
Before we get to the purple house, and trust me, we're going to spend a lot of time on that, let's start at the beginning. Tell me about Meadowbrook Estates and how you ended up there.
Sure. So this was spring of 2022. I'm a patent attorney. I work from home most of the time, and I was looking for a quiet place outside Austin. Meadowbrook Estates looked perfect. Beautiful colonial homes, tree-lined streets, that whole Norman Rockwell suburban dream. I bought this gorgeous 4-bedroom colonial with an oak tree in the back. I was excited.
And there was an HOA?
There was an HOA, which, look, I'm not inherently anti-HOA. I get it. They can serve a purpose, keep the neighborhood looking nice, maintain common areas. The comment was about 47 pages, which seems standard. The fees were $800 a year, totally reasonable. I skimmed it, I signed, I moved in. I thought I was being responsible.
But you weren't reading the fine print.
Nobody reads the fine print, Jennifer. That's the whole problem. Buried on page 32, subsection 14C, there was this clause. No lawn ornaments, statuary, or decorative items visible from the street without prior written approval from the Architectural Review Committee. At the time, I thought, well, I'm not planning on putting any pink flamingos out front, so I'm good.
But then came Gerald.
Then came Gerald. My younger sister Emma came to visit in July for my birthday. She brought me this gift, a 14-inch garden gnome with a red hat and a little fishing pole. She named him Gerald. She said every home needs a gnome for good luck.
That's adorable.
He was adorable. He had this cheerful little face, and the fishing pole had a tiny fish on the line. She put him right by my mailbox, and honestly, he made me smile every time I came home. For 3 weeks, Gerald just sat there, fishing, bringing joy to my otherwise corporate existence.
And then you met Patricia Whitmore.
And then I met Patricia Whitmore. It was a Tuesday morning, about 9 a.m. I'm on a Zoom call with a client in San Francisco, and my doorbell starts ringing. Not just ringing, being assaulted. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, like someone was trying to press it through the wall.
Aggressive doorbell ringing is never a good sign.
It's a red flag, literally. So I mute my mic, apologize to my client, and go to the door. And there she is, Patricia Whitmore, about 58 years old, white capri pants, pink polo with the collar popped, enough pearls to make Coco Chanel jealous, and this hair. You know that specific, I want to speak to the manager haircut?
Oh, I know it well.
She's holding a clipboard like it's Thor's hammer, and she says, not asks, says, Mr. Webb, like it's an accusation.
What did she want?
She introduces herself as the HOA president, and she says, we have a problem. I'm thinking maybe there's a water main break or something. I tell her I'm on a work call, and she says, no, Mr. Webb, it cannot wait. You are in direct violation of the HOA covenant, section 14C, regarding unauthorized lawn ornaments.
The gnome.
The gnome. She points at Gerald like he's a war criminal and informs me that he's been visible from the street for 23 days. She counted, Jennifer, and that I have 72 hours to remove him or face a $500 fine.
$500 for a gnome.
For a 14-inch gnome. I actually laughed. I thought she was joking, but no. She hands me this official violation notice on the HOA letterhead, tells me the rules apply to everyone, and leaves. She had parked in my driveway blocking me in, by the way.
So what did you do?
Well, I'm a lawyer, so I did what lawyers do. I read the covenant. all 47 pages. And Patricia was technically correct about the lawn ornament clause, but the covenant also said that the Architectural Review Committee had to respond to written requests within 30 business days, and that approval couldn't be unreasonably withheld for things that don't affect property value.
I drafted a formal, retroactive approval request for decorative lawn ornament. I'm a patent attorney. I know how to write a persuasive document. I included photos of Gerald from multiple angles, explained he was a gift from my sister with sentimental value, and I cited 3 actual property value studies showing that tasteful lawn ornaments have no negative impact on home values. Sent it certified mail, return receipt requested.
And they denied it.
30 days later. Denied. Reason: the committee finds garden gnomes to be aesthetically inconsistent with the community's upscale character. The $500 fine arrived the next day.
That must have been infuriating.
It was. But here's the thing. I'm not naturally confrontational. I don't like conflict. So I paid the fine. I moved Gerald to the backyard where he couldn't be seen from the street. I thought, okay, lesson learned. I'll follow their ridiculous rules.
But that wasn't the end of it.
Jennifer, that was just the appetizer. Patricia had apparently decided I was her new project.
What happened next?
Over the next 6 months, I got violation notice after violation notice. August, $250 fine for parking my car in my own driveway facing the wrong direction. Apparently, there's a rule that all cars have to be nose out for aesthetic uniformity.
I've never heard of that.
Neither had anyone else in the neighborhood, but it was there, buried in the covenant. September, $300 fine because my trash cans were visible from the street for too long. The rule said trash cans could only be at the curb from 6 p.m. the night before pickup until 8 p.m. on pickup day. My pickup was at 6 a.m. Sometimes I didn't bring them in until lunch.
So she was driving around timing people's trash cans?
Every day at 8:01 p.m., documenting violations. October, $400 fine for non-compliant house numbers. A new rule had passed requiring all house numbers to be brushed nickel, minimum 5 inches tall, Helvetica font. I was out of town for that meeting. November, $350 for 3 dandelions in my lawn. I counted them, 3 dandelions.
This is harassment.
It was absolutely harassment. December was the best one. $500 fine for unauthorized holiday decorations. I had simple white Christmas lights on my porch railing. There was a new rule, passed while I was apparently living my life, requiring pre-approval for all holiday lights, warm white LED only, no icicle or chase patterns.
How much did you pay in fines total?
$3,500 in 6 months. And every single fine came with a personal visit from Patricia, delivering it with this smug little smile that made me want to scream.
That's when you started fighting back.
That's when I started doing research. I started attending the monthly HOA meetings, and that's where I saw the full picture. These meetings were held at the community clubhouse, 3rd Tuesday of every month. There were 7 people on the board, but Patricia ran it like a dictatorship.
How so?
The Architectural Review Committee was her best friend Linda, and Linda's husband Tom, who openly said he just voted however Patricia wanted. Every rule change, every fine, every decision went through her. And I wasn't her only victim.
Who else was she targeting?
There was this older veteran, Jorge Rodriguez. He'd had a stroke and couldn't manage his front steps anymore, so he installed a wheelchair ramp. Patricia fined him $2,000 for installing it without approval. There was a young couple, the Patels, who got fined $1,500 because their shutters were colonial blue instead of Williamsburg blue, colors that literally look identical.
That's cruel.
It was cruel. But here's what really opened my eyes. At the January 2023 meeting, someone asked Patricia to provide an accounting of where the HOA fees were going. We had 127 homes paying $800 a year. That's over $100,000 annually. You know what she said?
I'm afraid to ask.
She said the budget was reviewed by the board and was proprietary information, and if anyone had concerns, they could submit them in writing. That's when I knew this wasn't about rules or property values. This was about power and probably money.
So you investigated.
I'm a patent attorney. My entire job is finding loopholes and understanding complex regulations. I spent 2 weeks reading nothing but Texas property law, HOA statutes, case precedents, and I found some very interesting things.
Like what?
Like the fact that under Texas Property Code Section 209.005, an HOA can't enforce rules that weren't properly recorded with the county. I requested the official recorded covenant from county records. Guess what? Half the rules Patricia was enforcing, the nose-out parking, the house number fonts, the Christmas light restrictions, were never officially recorded. They were just board decisions Patricia was treating as law.
So they were unenforceable.
Completely unenforceable. I also found that Texas law says HOA fines have to be reasonable, and there's case law establishing that fines over $100 for minor aesthetic violations are excessive. And here's the big one. Homeowners have the right to a hearing before the board for any fine over $100. I was never offered a hearing. Not once.
That's a lot of ammunition.
That was the legal ammunition. But then I got the nuclear option. I filed an open records request with the county for the HOA financial records.
And what did you find?
Pause for effect. $100,000 in annual revenue, $35,000 going to Whitmore Property Management LLC for administrative services, Patricia's company, another $18,000 to P. Whitmore for consulting fees, $12,000 to her husband's landscaping company for maintaining maybe half an acre of common area, and $8,000 in legal fees to a law firm that didn't exist.
She was stealing from the HOA.
She was absolutely stealing. Self-dealing at minimum, embezzlement more likely. But here's the problem. Proving financial fraud in an HOA requires lawsuits, discovery, years of litigation, tens of thousands in legal fees. I wanted something faster, something more personally satisfying.
And that's when you found the paint clause.
That's when I found the paint clause.
Tell me about the paint clause.
In the original 1997 covenant, the one actually recorded with the county, there's Section 11A about exterior paint colors. It says homeowners can paint their homes in colors consistent with the community's aesthetic standards, including earth tones, neutrals, and traditional colonial colors. Homeowners have to submit paint samples for approval.
That sounds pretty restrictive.
But here's the beautiful part. It didn't define what those terms meant. No specific color list, no chart, no Pantone numbers, and most importantly, it had this sentence. If the committee does not respond within 30 business days of receiving a paint sample submission, the proposed color is deemed approved.
Automatic approval.
Automatic approval. And in that moment, sitting in my home office, reading that clause for the third time, I had an idea. A beautiful, terrible, perfect idea.
You decided to paint your house purple.
Not just purple, the most aggressive, vibrant, eye-catching shade of purple I could find. I went to a high-end paint store and told the specialist, I need purple that makes people stop and stare. Purple that could be seen from space.
What did they say?
She looked at me like I'd lost my mind, but she delivered. Pantone 2665C. Royal purple, the color of Barney the dinosaur's fever dream, the color of every Prince album cover, the color of a bruise on a sunset.
How much did you buy?
$800 worth. And then I did everything exactly by the book. I submitted a formal paint approval request to the Architectural Review Committee via certified mail, return receipt requested. I included a paint sample card. I cited Section 11A, and then I waited.
What did Patricia do?
4 days later, she called me. I didn't answer. She left this voicemail. Mr. Webb, this is Patricia Whitmore. I received your absolutely ridiculous paint request. There is no way the committee will approve purple. This is a waste of everyone's time. Consider it denied.
But a voicemail isn't official.
Exactly. The covenant required a written response via mail, so I kept counting business days. Day 10, day 20, day 29. On day 30, I finally got a hastily written letter. Denied. Purple is not consistent with community standards.
But it was late.
It was postmarked day 31. They were late by 1 day. According to the covenant's own rules, my color was deemed approved.
Oh, this is perfect.
I hired professional painters that weekend. I wanted this done right. On a beautiful Saturday morning in March 2023, I had 5 guys pressure wash my entire house and apply 2 coats of Pantone 2665C to every square inch of my home's exterior.
What was it like watching them paint it?
Honestly, it was one of the most satisfying experiences of my life. With every stroke of that roller, I could feel months of harassment and frustration just like lifting. The first coat was bright. The second coat was magnificent. My Sunday afternoon, my house looked like a royal palace.
When did Patricia
or
see
a
it?
children's...
Monday morning, I was sitting on my porch, drinking coffee, just admiring my handiwork, when her Lexus came screeching into my driveway. And I mean screeching. She left tire marks.
Oh, I wish I could have seen her face.
Jennifer, she was shaking, literally trembling with rage. She got out of the car and screamed, not said, screamed, "What have you done?"
What did you say?
I said, "Good morning, Patricia. Beautiful day, isn't it?"
You didn't.
I did. She screamed, "You painted your house purple?" I said yes. I submitted a paint approval request per Section 11A of the covenant. The committee failed to respond within the required 30 business days, which constitutes automatic approval. Everything was done by the book. And then I sipped my coffee.
How did she react?
Her face turned the color of a tomato. She said I'd be fined, that it was outrageous. So I pulled out my folder because, of course, I had a folder with every piece of documentation: certified mail receipt, return receipt, calendar with the 30 business days marked off, her denial letter with the late postmark. Everything.
Receipts.
All the receipts. And then I told her I'd love to go to court because while we were there, we could discuss the $35,000 in HOA funds going to her property management company and the $18,000 in consulting fees and the fake law firm. I told her I had all the financial records.
The color must have drained from her face.
It did. She went from tomato red to ghost white in about 5 seconds. She whispered, "What do you want?"
What did you want?
I told her to resign as HOA president. I wanted a full independent financial audit. I wanted every fine from the past 2 years reviewed for legal compliance. And I wanted my $3,500 in fines refunded, every penny. I gave her 72 hours, the same timeline she always gave me.
Did she resign?
Not in 72 hours. She tried to fight. She called an emergency HOA meeting for that Thursday, clearly planning to rally the board against me, maybe get them to override the automatic approval clause somehow.
But you showed up.
Oh, I showed up with my lawyer, my documentation, and George Rodriguez, the veteran she'd find for the wheelchair ramp. The community clubhouse was packed. Apparently, a Purple House controversy was the most exciting thing to happen in Meadowbrook Estates in years.
What happened at the meeting?
Patricia tried to start with, "We are here to discuss Mr. Webb's flagrant disregard for community standards," but I raised a point of order. She said I wasn't recognized, but I cited Robert's Rules of Order, which the bylaws said govern all meetings. I pointed out that the meeting wasn't properly noticed. The bylaws required 10 days written notice to all homeowners, and she'd announced it 3 days ago on Facebook.
So the meeting was invalid.
Legally invalid. My lawyer confirmed it, but since everyone was there, I asked to address the community directly. I laid out everything: the $3,500 in fines I had received, the unrecorded rules, the financial payments to Patricia's companies. I distributed copies of the financial records to everyone there.
How did people react?
The room erupted. People were furious. It turned out I wasn't alone. Lots of people had been fined for ridiculous things. The Patels with their paint colors, George with his ramp, a woman named Susan whose daughter's pink bicycle was visible from the street. We'd all been targeted.
What happened to Patricia?
The meeting devolved into chaos. Homeowners demanded answers, board members claimed they didn't know about the payments, which might have been true. Patricia ran everything. By the end of the night, there was a petition circulating for her immediate resignation and a special election for the entire board.
And she resigned?
Yes, via email. The next morning, no apology, no explanation, just a 2-sentence resignation email.
That must have felt good.
It felt incredible. But the story doesn't end there. The special election happened 6 weeks later. I didn't run. I had no interest in being HOA president, but George did. Amy Patel ran. A retired accountant named Bill Morrison ran because he was appalled by the financials.
Did they win?
Landslide. And their first act was hiring a forensic accountant. The audit found over $180,000 in questionable payments over 5 years. The board filed a lawsuit against Patricia for breach of fiduciary duty and embezzlement.
Good.
Their second act was reviewing every fine from the past 3 years. Over $40,000 was refunded to homeowners for improperly assessed fines. Their third act was actually updating the covenant. They eliminated all those unrecorded rules Patricia had invented. They created clear, reasonable standards for paint colors, decorations, lawn ornaments.
And Gerald?
George personally approved my retroactive application for Gerald. He's back by the mailbox where he belongs.
Now the question everyone wants to know, did you repaint your house?
No, hell no. My house is still purple.
Really?
At first I kept it purple out of spite, I'll admit that. But then something interesting happened. People loved it.
They loved it.
Kids in the neighborhood call it the fun house. They ask their parents if they can paint their houses purple too. A local newspaper did a story, Homeowners' Colorful Stand Against HOA Overreach. It went viral. Tourists started taking pictures in front of it. A food blogger used it as a backdrop for Instagram. Someone made it a Google Maps landmark, the Purple House of Meadowbrook.
That's amazing.
My property value actually went up. When a house 2 doors down went on the market, the realtor specifically mentioned near the famous Purple House in the listing. It sold for $15,000 over asking.
So your purple house of revenge
became a
selling point?
About 6 months after Patricia resigned, I was watering my lawn and this young couple pulled up. They said they'd seen my purple house online and it made them feel like this was a community with personality, a place that didn't take itself too seriously.
Did they move there?
They bought a house 3 streets over. 2 months later, they painted it teal.
Teal!
The new HOA board approved it without question, and that's when I realized we'd actually changed the culture of the neighborhood. It wasn't about the purple house. It was about freedom and trust and not living in fear of your neighbors.
What happened to Patricia in the end?
She settled the lawsuit for $120,000. The settlement terms prohibited her from ever serving on an HOA board again. She and her husband moved to a condo in Dallas. I heard she tried to run for that condo board, but someone Googled her name and found the articles about Meadowbrook. She was not elected.
Karma.
Sweet, purple karma.
Marcus, before we wrap up, I have to ask, do you have any advice for people dealing with nightmare HOAs?
Yes. First, read your covenant. Actually read it, every page, every clause. Know what's actually in there versus what the board claims is in there. Second, document everything, every interaction, every fine, every email. Get things in writing. Third, know your state's HOA laws. Most states have protections for homeowners that HOA boards ignore or don't know about.
And fourth?
Fourth, band together with your neighbors. I wasn't Patricia's only victim. There were dozens of us. Alone, we were isolated targets. Together, we were a coalition. That made all the difference.
Anything else?
Keep a lawyer in your back pocket. Or be one. That helps.
Fair enough. Is Gerald still by your mailbox?
Gerald is still there. And actually, Emma visited last weekend and brought me Gerald Jr., another known with a welcome sign. He's right next to Gerald Sr. now.
Did you check with the HOA?
Nope. I knew it would be fine. And if it wasn't, I still have plenty of purple paint left.
Marcus Webb, thank you so much for sharing this absolutely incredible story of spite, justice,
and the perfect shade of purple.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer. It was fun to relive it.
And listeners, if you loved the story, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who's ever dealt with an HOA nightmare. We'll be back next week with another tale of beautiful, justified malicious compliance. Until then, remember, sometimes the best revenge is living well, and sometimes it's painting your house purple.